During the 80s, I played in a lot of show/dance bands, touring around, playing all the Holiday Inns and the big Sheridans and all of that for 2 or 3 weeks at a time here and there. So I had to get everything mail order on the road, strings, gear, whatever. You know, you go to different local music stores, but they usually didn't have, you know, good stuff. The selection was terrible. So found the Carvin catalog one time and just religiously kept it. I used a lot of little effects units and EQs and compressors and crossover rack gear and that kind of thing, and the accessories especially, all the cases, stands, and that kind of stuff. And then when I was touring with Meredith, that's when I started doing the endorsement with them. At the time I was using some other basses as well, and they hooked me up with these AC40s, which I just love. This one, especially the fretted one, has this real throaty kind of P-bass tone that just really has a lot of character in a mix. I've used it on a bunch of different sessions for different kind of things. And if anybody out there has children that watch Chalk Zone, they may have heard this bass on there. If you watched Regis and Kathy Lee a few years ago, you saw me playing this bass on their show one day with Meredith Brooks. And it has great applications. I'll be using it tomorrow night on a gig locally, a little acoustic thing where it's just me and a guitar player with his acoustic and a drummer with a little cocktail kit. And I take this in a little combo amp, and it just really has a cool flavor. And plus it looks great. The fretless one is one of my gems. People in the studio freak out over it because it has these tiny little strings that I put on it with the nylon core, so it gets this real upright kind of sound. And my hands are too small to really be an upright player. I can't. It's just too much of a bear for me. So I do a lot of fretless things, and this gives me a. I get a serious upright kind of vibe off of it. So sometimes that's needed. I'm all about tone. Tone rules my world in a way that's a good thing, and it can be a bad thing, because like if I get stuck with a bad rig, or there's a really raunchy monitor system that night on stage or whatever, which happens more often than not sometimes, and then I can only rise to a certain level because there's some things I just won't attempt to play if the tone is not there. And that's one thing I've always loved about these. They have this distinct tone, and it has a great purpose. When you put it in the spot in the mix, you don't have to do anything to it. You just throw the fader up, put the other instruments around it, and it just sits right in there like it's supposed to. And that's what I look for in a good instrument. If you have to EQ it a lot and mess with it, then something's not right. The source should be just throw it up flat. It should be, okay, that's workable right there, and it should go from good to great, not from okay to passable. Yeah. And that's what I love about these. Even the older guitar that I use for all my tracking stuff here at home, it just sounds amazing. I tune it down sometimes, drop D and stuff, and just it gets a serious Limp Bizkit crunchy just groove and kind of stuff. And then you can put it back up to normal, and it'll sound like Duane Allman. Yeah, it's super, just tone, 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 tone. That's it. Tone rules. The quality has always been good. I think they've even stepped it up in the last like 3 or 4 years a little bit. I always thought it was good before, but I do think it's actually everything across the board is they kind of up the ante a little bit with everything, it seems like. I'd much rather buy an instrument made by musicians than a scientist. This one is great for anything that's got like a P-bass kind of vibe, just big, fat, old school, like a... Or like one thing I may play at church tonight would be a... I don't know how they managed to keep them so thin and keep the tension the same on the neck, especially with these long scale acoustics. It's just beautiful, easy all the way up and down. You don't get that big bulky kind of thing going on anywhere. I hate those things that feel like a baseball bat in your hand. And this is just so beautiful. It's ease of playing, too easy. If you can't play decent with a Carvin, maybe you need to do something else.